Thank you once again for joining me right here on Facebook. Actually, this isn't Facebook. This is YouTube, baby. My Captain Show right here on YouTube. I'm so used to doing the whole Facebook thing, which not really going to be doing that too much anymore. Maybe once in a while, but the drive time rants, I don't know. Facebook pisses me off. I'm absolutely migrating over to Steemit.com, which is the decentralized, the very first decentralized social media site built atop the blockchain technology, the Steem blockchain. And it's an absolutely incredible platform. It's getting better and better all the time. And it's completely decentralized, so you can't get banned. No one can suspend you. No one can pull your post down because they get offended or some stupid shit like that. You basically own your account. Now, people can vote your content down if they don't like your content. And you're probably not going to want to put too much effort to putting up shitty content anyway, because with blockchain technology, it's going to change the world. You actually get paid in valuable cryptocurrency with the more value that you add to the Steemit social media site in terms of your content that you post. So if you post something and people are upvoting your content, which is the exact same thing as liking content on Facebook or thumbing up content on YouTube, the blockchain rewards you with cryptocurrency. And it's valuable. I think when I first got into Steem, I think the Steem dollar was 87 cents when I first started buying it and earning it by posting. Now it's bouncing between $2 and $8. It's low right now because the whole market's low. I think it's down to like $3 and some change. But as every single week, more and more people are leaving Facebook and going to Steemit as they start to understand how blockchain technology empowers them as individuals and leaves them no longer beholden to third parties like Mark Zuckerberg or government or anything like that. So Steemit, as more and more people learn about it, they're migrating towards it. Like I said, when I first got into Steem, into the Steemit.com platform, the tokens were 87 cents a piece. I think they went all the way up to like $8. No, I'm not worried about how unregulated cryptos are. You can't regulate a decentralized cryptocurrency. It self-regulates. No one can print more of it, so there's no more of that scam-ass bullshit going on where the central bankers just print more and more money out of thin air. That comes to an end with decentralized cryptocurrencies. They can't print more of it. No one's in control of it. So there's no one that can manipulate it to the point where, if you own a certain cryptocurrency, you have a invested interest in maintaining the value of that currency, no matter how much of it you own. And so there's no one that can really manipulate it like the central bankers do with fiat currency. So cryptocurrencies, man, no regulation needed. It's blockchain technology. Everything's recorded on the public ledger. Nothing can be manipulated. It's all wrapped in cryptography, so the government can't come in and change things on the ledger. No central banker can come in and change things on the ledger. Once your transaction is time-stamped on the ledger, that's it. It's there forever. There is no changing it. There is no manipulating it. It's there forever. And that's a good thing. It self-regulates, and no government needed, none whatsoever. What Netflix did to Blockbuster, decentralized cryptocurrencies will do to banks. The banks will at some point in time cease to exist. Now, knowing that, guaranteed they're not going down without a fight. They are not going down without a fight. They're going to kick and scream, but the reality is They can use their media hacks to try and demonize cryptocurrencies all they want. There's no way around reality. A rock solid cryptocurrency that's decentralized is the wave of the future. Vergecoin, Bitcoin, Litecoin, possibly Dimecoin, Digibyte, incredible exchanges of value in the crypto world, and they're going to take down the banks, and they're going to put an end to fiat currency. It's just the way it is. Don't they get used for a lot of money laundering? Sure they do. But so does cash. So does fiat currency. I mean, anything that's of value can be used for laundering money. However, when governments finally disappear, what is laundering money? Well, it's cleaning it so you can justify where you got it from. Well, if we get rid of government and we get rid of all these stupid, insane laws that they write up, just man-made laws where there is no victim, for example, cannabis prohibition, get rid of all those stupid-ass laws, who's going to launder money? There's no need to launder money. Hey, how did you earn $1 million in cryptocurrencies? I sold cannabis. Oh, very good, man. That sounds like a good business to get into. Yeah, man, it's a great business to get into. Like, what the fuck? People will just be open about what the fuck they're doing. No more throwing people in jail for growing a pot plant or selling a pot plant or whatever. You know what I mean? It's stupid shit that we do right now, and we think it's normal. But when you really think about it, breaking into someone's home because they're growing a fucking natural plant and then throwing them in a cage, that's not normal. That's psychotic. But we've been indoctrinated to believe it's normal. And there's nothing normal about that. And so blockchain technology is changing. I mean, I absolutely envision one day blockchain technology relegating all forms of government to the history books. And that would be a good thing. This idea that we can't live peacefully and prosperously without government is insane. It's insane. Now I know, what do you expect to... I was taught that government's an necessary evil. I remember teachers used to say that bullshit to me, and I used to believe it. But think about it. Just think. If people are... The reason we have government is because people think human beings are too stupid to govern themselves. And while that may be true on some level, then we have to ask ourselves, if humans are too stupid to govern themselves, why in the fuck would you want those humans to govern other people's lives? So when you really look at it with facts and logic, government doesn't make any sense. Now, representatives or, planners that deal with voluntary contracts, sure. I mean, I don't see any issue with, towns and communities and even subdivisions delegating, representatives to represent their community, in whatever it is they want to do, building roads to get to the community with other communities, for example. Sure, you can do that. You can use representatives. But they should be able to figure out ways and be innovative in the ways that they develop the things that people want, need, and desire, absent the use of intimidation, coercion, and force, and 100% in a voluntary way, where everybody agrees. And I don't mean this stupid imaginary social contract where people just assume everyone else agrees. I mean where people really agree, under contract. And if someone doesn't agree, then they don't agree with it. That's it. You can't force them. And the second you start to use intimidation, coercion, and force on the people that don't agree, you're committing a crime. We call it government, but it's not government. It's criminals acting in a criminal way. Anytime you use intimidation, coercion, and force on peaceful people, then you're committing a crime. Just because you parade around calling yourself a government official does not exonerate you from the fact you're committing a criminal crime, a criminal act. And quite frankly, Vergecoin is one of my favorite coins. Bitcoin, of course. What can I say about Bitcoin, man? Bitcoin is awesome. I don't see Bitcoin being used as a daily driver. It's too slow, but it is very rock solid. So I think Bitcoin is positioning itself more as a holder of larger value. So Bitcoin may be something you may want to purchase a home with, or a yacht, or you want to sell your home and get a motor home and travel. You know, you're retired, so you want to get rid of the home, get yourself a big ass motor home and travel all over, all over America and Canada and whatever. But Bitcoin can be used for larger exchanges of value. I don't ever see Bitcoin being used as a daily driver. Bread, gasoline, paying your electric bill, whatever the case may be. I see it more as a holder of larger amounts of value. What I do see as daily drivers are Vergecoin, Digibyte, Dimecoin, Dash, of course. I see Dash as a decent exchange of value as a daily driver. Digibyte's incredibly fast. Vergecoin's incredibly fast. I mean, we're talking 5-second transactions. It's what replaces government? Freedom, liberty. That's what replaces government. People living in freedom replaces government. The second you have a government that uses intimidation, coercion, and force, you're no longer free. You are no longer living in liberty. I don't care how much you say we're, land of the free and home of the brave, you're not free. And that's just the way it is. So whenever somebody asks me what replaces government, freedom, liberty, that's what replaces government. I mean, just get rid of the use of intimidation, coercion, and force. And, call it out for what it is. When people use intimidation, coercion, and force to get people to pay and obey against their own real free will, then you're committing a crime. And the fact that you're called an IRS agent doesn't change the fact that you're committing a criminal act. Well, shooting up schools creates victims now, doesn't it? If you create a victim and harm someone else, that you're breaking natural law. I mean, just because you don't have government doesn't mean you don't have rules. Anarchy does not mean no rules. Everybody thinks anarchy means no rules. That is absolutely not what anarchy means. Anarchy simply means no rulers. All men are created equal. If all men are created equal, then I don't have a right to snuff your life out just because you mouth me off. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how it would work in a free society. There are probably 1,000 different options you would have to deal with criminals in a free society. You would have enterprising Americans that would start businesses whose job it would be to handle real criminals. And, communities could hire those businesses. Let's say, and I would say privatize all the different communities. Get rid of the governments and privatize them. Let the people in the communities decide what kind of security forces they want to hire for their community. You try to walk into your local community's police station and say you're all fired because you guys are beating up teenagers in our community. We don't like that. Those fucking cops will laugh you out of the building. But if you privatize security forces and get rid of government-paid cops, if that security force or peacekeeping force or whatever it is the community wants to hire, if they start getting out of line and beating up the kids in that community or doing people wrong, the community can fire those people and hire a new agency. That's the power of freedom. It empowers you, the individuals. But with today, where we have a government-funded police force, if they're beating up your kids in your community because they're smoking pot, or they're just being kids and playing hide and seek in the neighborhood, and maybe they trespass on somebody's property, doesn't like it, and the cops come and rough up the kids unnecessarily. I mean, try to walk into your police department and fire them. They will literally laugh you out of the building. Okay? They don't work to protect and serve individuals. They work to protect and serve the state and the politicians. That is a problem. And so, like I said, let's abolish government, get rid of them. Let's get past this idea that we somehow need government. Now, you got to remember, we have all spent 12 or 13 years in public schools, or most of us have. And so, you really have to understand that we've spent all that time, the most impressionable years of our life, being taught by government-paid teachers. They're not going to teach you that government is not necessary. There's a reason we come out and we, just like robots, repeat what the government teachers have taught us for the first 13 years of the most impressionable years of our life, and we repeat these words so often. Government is a necessary evil. That's called indoctrination. And generations after my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, they all believe the same bullshit. That government is a necessary evil. Government's not a necessary evil. Let's sit down and really think about what we're saying when we say that, instead of just repeating what the teachers have told us to say. And start asking them, why is government necessary? Well, what about the roads? They need to build the roads. Okay, well, I could think of a few different ways we could build roads without taxing people, without stealing from people's paychecks. Can we at least explore those options? No, that's government's job. Steal money and build roads. So we can't even have the discussion of how to build roads on a voluntary basis. No. Just say that government is a necessary evil. That's what teachers teach you. We come out of these schools like robots. Blah, 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 blah. Government is necessary evil. Just like that. That's called indoctrination. I believed it. I was indoctrinated. I was lucky enough to run across a couple of different books that really opened my eyes early in my life when I was 18 years old. The first book that really started to get me to question government was Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, which is a tremendous novel. And I don't agree with Ayn Rand on everything that she stood for, but she is a hero of mine. It was her book, and I didn't get the book in school. It was given to me by a friend who urged me to read it. And at first I didn't know what it was, didn't really expect much from it, and then I started reading it, and I got into it. And it basically shed a light on what governments actually do that I was never taught in school that governments actually do. And so when I read that book, the first time I've read it about 6 times. Also, I have read it 6 times, almost 7. I got about halfway through it about a year ago and then put it down. I already know what's coming anyway. But anyways, it made me question, like, wow, I never thought about government like this. And there was, if you read the book Atlas Shrugged, you'll come across Fountainhead's another great one. The Fountainhead, absolutely. We the Living. But Atlas Shrugged was the first book that I read from Ayn Rand, and that's what got me started. Fountainhead was actually the third book that I read. We the Living was number 2. And then I came across, after I found Ayn Rand, it was probably about a year later, I found Lysander Spooner, who really opened my eyes and really made me go, oh, now I get it. That makes sense. But mind you, that was early in my life. I mean, I started that journey when I was 18 years old. Most people, once they hit, 25 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old. They're so dead set in their ways that it's incredibly difficult for fact and logic to break through that armor that 13 years of. This is what we're fighting against. We're fighting against 12 to 13 years of government education. 12 to 13 years of government education is what we're fighting against. And that's a tough nut to crack, man. There's no other way to paint that ship. That's a tough nut to crack right there. Now, there are lots of people that were indoctrinated, all through their public education, through most of their adult life. And I've had, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds listen to the message of freedom, and you start to ask them questions that where they're going to eventually answer their own question. And there are people that no matter how much they're indoctrinated, you get to a certain point in the questioning and they stop and they go, I think I see where you're going with that. I've never thought about that before. That's interesting. And then you can see the wheels turn. And those people, are more than willing to accept truth and logic because they don't mind it challenging something they've actually believed their entire life. For other people, however, and I'm going to say for the majority of the people, if you believe for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years that taxation is just a necessary evil and that you could never imagine it as being the criminal act of theft, and then you start to, when somebody's asking you certain specific questions that take you on a logical rabbit trail, step by step, and leads you to the point where, hey, if you say yes, then yeah, that taxation is theft. If you say no, then you're just in denial, and you can see the wheels turning like, fuck, I'm stuck here because I can't say no and you can see the wheels turn. But in those cases, I find that the majority of the people in those senses, or in that particular instance, it's too hard of a pill for them to swallow. Because when you swallow that pill, you have to admit that you've been wrong your entire life. And that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. People don't like to be wrong. Like I said, I discovered really the reality of critical thinking when I was 18 years old. And even at 18 years old, it was a hard pill for me to swallow. So I couldn't imagine if I stumbled across this same kind of information when I was 40 or waited until I was 60 or whatever. I mean, I just couldn't imagine. I don't know if I could swallow that pill. So I was lucky enough to come across that information, at the tender age of 18. But even then, it was a hard pill to swallow. Nobody likes making enemies, but believe me, the liberty message makes you enemies. Plain and simple, it makes you enemies. There are, and I got friends on the other side. I got lots of friends on the other side, liberal side, the Republican side, basically the statist side. And we're friends, and we fucking battle about politics all the time. But there are other people, the second I start to ask them certain questions about something they believed in all their life, and there are some people that just, they don't want to hear that, man, and if you bring it up again, your friendship's done. And in those cases, well, there's nothing you can really do. You know what I mean? It is what it is. People are comfortable when they're asleep. And to become awoke I'm telling you, it's not a comfortable place to be. But that's where the revolutionaries are. The revolutionaries are the ones that ask relevant questions and demand honest answers. Or expect, I shouldn't say demand, expect honest answers. Because the reality is, even when somebody understands that the mechanisms of taxation are identical to the mechanisms of extortionists. They're only really different in name. And they're only really different in name because one is perpetrated by people running around calling themselves government. And of course, we have government education that says these people are necessary and people believe it. On the other hand, you have people that are not affiliated with government, and we call their activity extortion and theft, and we arrest them and throw them in a cage for doing so. But the reality is, the result is the exact same. You have a human being that has had wealth or property extracted from them through the use of intimidation, coercion, and force. And that is a crime. And when you start to lay that out for people, there are some people that just cannot fathom the idea that taxation is a crime. They don't get it. You know, they've been brought up their whole life thinking it's just normal, and that the people in the IRS are just, you know, honest, hardworking people that are just, you know, they're doing their job. It's necessary evil, and, you know, well, if you really believe that, well, then you live from cradle to grave as a slave to rulers. Because in your indoctrinated world, the reality is all men are not created equal. Some men in your world are rulers, and everyone else are subjects that are required to pay and obey. And so if that's the world that you feel comfortable in, well, then, I mean, there's nothing that I can say that's going to persuade you to say, you know what, having some men as rulers and other men as slave, where they pay and obey, or they go to a cage, if you can't accept that, that's a crime against humanity. Literally a crime against humanity. I don't know what else to say to you. There's nothing I can say that's going to persuade you to, change your tune. It's just the way it is. All right, guys, thanks for joining me on tonight's Drive Time Rant right here on YouTube on The Captain Show. I'm going to keep doing these on a regular basis, so please let your friends know that we'll be here on a regular basis. We're also going to continue to do our TKS show, The Captain Show, where we talk about cannabis, and, of course, we're going to do a little bit on politics as well, but mostly the Drive Time Rants will be about politics. Most of the TKS series will be on cannabis. And so, yeah, man, let everybody know about this channel. Get them to subscribe. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe below. Give me a big thumbs up, and share this content around as well. All right, homies, peace.